the whole opportunity that has come to Indigenous communities as a result of um, um, building nations and the concepts and the principles associated with um, the framework of that process and the dialogue that it has created has been extremely important in a number of ways. One, we were among the first that was examined with regard to how indigenous communities with the maintenance of indigenous governance systems and indigenous jurisprudence were able to handle one of the first wave of economic development models developed external to our communities that was very labor and capital intensive. And that kind of imposed system could have been very devastating were it not for the adherence to those systems and institutions that have really been our strength in all of the generations affected by similar kinds of pressures for development. And so the first kind of response in our community by being drawn into this national dialogue on these kinds of matters came at a very important time, because this kind of external examination, asking the questions about how do small indigenous nations survive in the midst of overwhelming odds against such nations with the pressures external, in this case with economic development. Well, a lot has to do with the essential Pueblo core values internally that gives value to these systems and institutions that define, the attitudes and behaviors of responses to these kinds of challenges. And so to be brought into the dialogue at a national level was a really profoundly important time of validating the value of these indigenous governance systems and the way in which our community of Cochiti was responding to these external pressures. And so from that time, I believe that across Indian country, as the dialogue and examples of other similar resilient responses across the entire spectrum of issues in education, in health, in community development, in natural resource protection, language preservation, protection of sacred sites, all have been just incredibly invaluable with regard to creating the opportunity of sharing and learning across Indian country to celebrate the ways in which indigenous peoples across the country, and to a large degree today, how indigenous peoples around the world are responding. And in this kind of value of sharing, our response to these incredible challenges, it has been profoundly important to engage and create opportunities for discourse.